My name is David Mitchell, and today I'll be presenting alternative energy sources. So for some background, some of the current energy issues faced today are too much CO2 being released into the atmosphere, and then the destruction of environments to use our current energy sources. And there's also a lack of renewability for some of our current energy sources. And so some of the future goals are to reduce CO2 emissions overall, and to also prevent environmental destruction in the future, and to maintain the affordability of energy sources being used. So the first energy source I looked at was fossil fuels. Currently, this is the energy source we use most today, and this is due to the fact, according to Schwartz, that this is a very cheap energy source. And it's also the fact that we've been using fossil fuels for a couple hundred years now, and it's just been an established energy source. According to Vo and others, coal, oil, and natural gas all represented 83.7% of the global energy production in 2018, which just goes to show that this is already a very widely used resource. And there's also the benefit that coal energy is not hindered by the local weather or climate. You can build a coal plant in any area and still get the same energy production. Some of the main issues of fossil fuels are, for one, there is a very high lack of renewability and a very limited supply. And according to Lactatos and others, coal is expected to run out within the next 50 to 200 years, which means that a new energy source does need to be found to replace coal when it does run out. There's also extreme CO2 emissions that are associated with fossil fuels. And this is an issue because CO2 is a greenhouse gas that results in global climate change, specifically the rise in global temperatures overall, which leads to issues such as rising ocean sea levels. There's also the issue that excessive mining is required to get these fossil fuels. And these mining processes can involve strip mining, which rips apart terrestrial landscapes, and ocean drilling, which can potentially result in oil spills in the oceans. Another energy source I looked at was nuclear energy. According to Vo and others, one of the big benefits of this is that this does not at all produce CO2 emissions. And that's similar to coal. You can build a nuclear power plant in any region and get the same energy production. You're not at all hindered by weather or climate. Some of the issues of nuclear is that nuclear waste is very hard to deal with. According to Rodriguez, Pintaloga, and Moratilla, nuclear waste must be stored underground for many years, often thousands of years. And there's also a very high cost associated with building a power plant. There's also a rare risk of nuclear meltdowns occurring. According to Escobar and Levique, there was a triple core meltdown occurred at Fukushima Daiichi power plant. And while these events are very rare, they are very catastrophic in damages when they do occur. Another energy source I looked at was hydroelectric energy. One of the pros of this energy source, according to Bayezid, is that this is the cheapest energy source to use. And there's also the benefit that this energy source does not at all contribute to CO2 emissions. And another benefit is that you can control the amount of water flow that goes through the dam to prevent droughts and floods downstream. And according to Bayezid, you can allow more or less water to pass through a dam to counteract both of these hazards. And for hydroelectric energy, some of the issues are that dams can hinder the movement of aquatic organisms. There's been some research done to create these fish passages, but specifically salmon and sturgeon struggle a lot with these dams since they require going upstream during certain parts of their life cycle. There's also the issue that building a dam can force settlements to relocate, specifically due to the fact that dams result in a large buildup of water called a reservoir backstream, and these built reservoirs can cause flooding in areas and force settlements to have to relocate. And there's also the fact that these dams disrupt local climate in unpredictable ways. This is due to the fact that you're just overall altering the natural hydrologic cycle in the region, and the consequences could be unpredictable. Now, our energy source I looked at is wind, and according to Richardson and others, this energy source does not at all contribute to CO emissions. And according to Lang and Liu, this is a very cheap and renewable energy source. Some of the issues with wind energy, though, is that wind turbines can kill thousands of bats and birds. And then there's also the issue of noise pollution and habitat fragmentation. And this noise pollution causes habitat fragmentation by preventing animals from being able to sleep in certain areas, which just overall reduces the amount of habitat options to animals in the region. And then there's also the issue of wind, that it's overall a very inconsistent energy source. Wind can vary from day to day, as well as vary from region to region, which means you can get varying amounts of energy production from every day in different areas. Another energy source I looked at is solar energy. This energy source also has the benefit that it does not contribute to CO2 emissions, and this is overall just a very clean, safe, and renewable energy source. But then some of the issues with solar energy is that it does not work at night, and then there's also issues that you have very poor energy production outside the tropics. This energy source overall just varies a lot with weather, time of day, and location, and overall it's just an inconsistent energy source. So in conclusion, overall, I believe that nuclear is the best option moving forward. It has the same reliability as coal in terms of the fact you can build a power plant in any region. And then there's also not as many environmental concerns with nuclear as there is with fossil fuels. And the only real issue is figuring out how to store nuclear waste going forward. I do believe that wind, solar, and hydroelectric energies can all be used in regions where they are highly favorable as secondary sources of energy production, though I'd still prefer to see nuclear energy as the main energy source going forward, just due to the high reliability of it as a resource. And these are my references used throughout the presentation and research.